Hey, we're here with another VintCo Vintage Racer build. We got Don again here, and he's gone his, this is a CR250. What year is this one?
This is 1979.
79 CR250. And Honda was a pretty good, how was this bike in 1979 compared to the other bikes in 1979?
Well, they sold a zillion of them. The bike was the same 78 and 79. 80, they went to a twin tube, down tube motor with a center port, which is basically the same kind of bike. So they sold a bunch of them, and they were, to me, it was the most iconic bike of the time because the fast guys, Marty Smith, and those guys were riding them. And there was a lot of aftermarket parts available for them. You know, Fox made everything for it. The Suzukis were really good at the same time as well. But the way these bikes with the red motor, red frame, to me, they're very iconic.
What I noticed, I'm on this right side of the bike, and something's missing over here.
The engine, yeah, you talking about the chain guard?
No, you gotta.
Oh, the Kickstarter's on the other side, which makes it really unique. Yeah, that's kind of a pain.
So,
like a European bike.
So you got the knack of how to start these then?
Yeah, I haven't ridden this bike in like 2 years, so you got to learn all over again.
And so do you stand on the left side?
Off the bike and do it with my right leg.
Okay. All right. Maybe we'll get a little footage of that when we're done here. So, swing arm stock?
No, that's a DG swing arm of the period.
And how did you find that thing?
I bought a whole nother bike just for the swing arm.
There you go. So, when we go, like, you know, when you go, how much money do you think you have in this? You have to buy all those other bikes that you've bought parts for. But what do you think you have into something like this, money-wise?
Well,
your wife's not watching.
Yeah, you know, in reality, you know, you spend $800 just on wheels. Shocks are going to be another $800. You know, you end up with. I don't think you could build one for less than $4,000, $5,000, even if you're doing a lot of the work yourself.
That sounds about right. I mean, and then on this particular bike, what are some? I noticed you had PEP, and I've known Wayne and Ron for years, And did they do the suspension on this for you?
They did the suspension on this bike for me, yes.
And what are some other things, or any other hiccups maybe you had, or tough parts to find when you were building this thing?
This bike, when I started, this was the first vintage bike I bought, and so back when I got it 15 years ago, they were a lot more plentiful, so I collected parts. I have enough parts in my house to build 4 more. So Hondas in general are really hard to find parts for, so generally speaking, with a vintage Honda of this era, if you need a gear or something for the transmission, you're probably not going to find a new old stock one on eBay anywhere. You're going to have to find a parts motor. So,
and now I know, you know why that they're so hard to find these parts for? Because there's guys like you that are hoarding all the bikes. So if there's another 100 guys like you out there hoarding all their Honda favorite bikes, then that's why this is the problem with vintage bikes.
Well, it is, but you learn early on that if you do break a transmission, which they're not a super strong transmission, if you break it, you're gonna really be looking long and hard to find a transmission. And then the other thing is, if you were on eBay, you might spend $300 or $400 trying to find a used transmission from somebody you don't know.
Yeah.
And so I always, if I could buy a complete motor for $200 somewhere, I did it.
And so now, if anybody sees Don and they need a Honda transmission, they know where to go. So this thing,
assuming I would sell it.
So they might take you out in the track, or let you win so that they could buy it at a good deal. Yeah. So really cool. I noticed you have like larger footprint. I don't think these pegs are stock.
Those are Pro Form out of Makos only.
Oh, that's really cool that you have a modern size foot peg on there.
This particular bike nowadays, there was so many of them made and they're so popular. There's a lot of good aftermarket replacement parts for it. So any issues these bikes have with things wearing out, you can buy aftermarket brake pedals, replacement bearings. You know, they make swing arms. I mean, aftermarket now. This bike has a lot of stuff available for it. There's a couple guys over in the UK that build some really nice parts for these bikes.
Now, I noticed the air chambers here. Tell us about these forks a little bit.
Yeah, so those are original period DG air caps because you know, anybody that rode these bikes knows that the stock suspension was just obscenely soft. You just basically, if you rode fast at all, you couldn't ride with a stock fork. So that was a popular way to just put a little air in the forks to help with the spring.
And how much pressure do you add typically?
I start with like 8 pounds. It doesn't take a whole lot.
Okay, very cool. Well, that's really neat. Anything else you could think about this thing that's kind of unique or good, or maybe you'd warn somebody about if they were going to restore their own?
No, I think they're a great bike. They're really fun, but most of the time for me, I think buying a vintage bike's an emotional thing, because I bought this bike because I, as a kid, would sit and look and reading the magazines and seeing Marty Smith on them, and that's why I bought it. Not because it's the best vintage bike of its period, because it's the coolest vintage bike of the period for me.
And I do get that way as well. When I had some of these pictures up on my wall, and they were a little bit from 80 to 85 in here in this range. That's when it really got strong for me. The frame itself, do you have to do any gusseting to these things before you get them painted?
Guys do, but I didn't learn that until after I'd already done mine. So they do say they're pretty flexy, and the guys are putting gussets in them to stiffen them up, but I didn't know to do that. So mine is all stock.
But you haven't had any cracking issues?
I have not had any, no.
Well, that's great news. Good looking bike, and it's always with these VintCo Vintage racers. It's nice when these things are ridden. And he does say, Don says he has some bikes that we'll try to show you in the future that are too nice to bring out to the dirt, right?
Yeah, I've got some really pretty Makos that Eric at Makos Only helped me build, and unfortunately, I've done that a few times where I made it so nice that I don't want to get it dirty.
And I totally get where you're coming from. It's nice that he has these good ones. He's even letting a buddy race his 125 today, so that's really cool. So thanks again for sharing this with us, and we really appreciate it. And hopefully you have a good day today and have some fun racing as well.
Thank you. I appreciate the support of the sport.
All right, that's another VintCo Vintage racer for you.